Here he is. So we have one more candidate for District 4. I'm going to get that right. Rich John is just coming from another meeting. Thank you so much for coming. And we're going to get right into it. Yes, that front and center. And we are asking each candidate to do a 2-minute introduction, and then we'll jump right into questions. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for staying. So you have a mic with you.
I have a microphone.
Yes, and we definitely need to use it for the recordings.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Rich John. I am currently on the county legislature, and I am running for re-election, and I welcome the chance to come talk to you people. And I am sure that you've had a fairly long evening, and so I will try to be quick with my answers so you don't get bored. But let me just give you a brief background on who I am and where I come from. I've lived in Ithaca for just over 50 years. I've lived on East Hill for 20. My wife is in the audience. We've raised 3 kids there. I have been a renter. I've been a homeowner, certainly a taxpayer. I went to Ithaca High School, graduated in 1977, Cornell in 81, and the University of Notre Dame in 1986 for law school. I came back to Ithaca and practiced for 20 years. At that point, one of my clients asked me to join in-house in a company, Intertech, which has one of its major offices over in Cortland. I was the general counsel for North America, and I was responsible for all of the legal matters for a very large corporation. So I understand I've been a corporate lawyer, one of the hats I've worn. But I was also responsible for compliance on a global basis. I've managed a legal department. I actually built the legal department. I hired women, I hired minorities, I hired someone that had a criminal record, and my staff was the best in the company, I thought. So I decided I did not want to travel as much as I was traveling and wanted to come back to Ithaca. And when the vacancy opened up, I ran for the legislature. I've been on for 2 years. I ran the same time as Anna. And I am the chair of the Public Safety Committee. I'm the chair of a temporary committee, the Jail Study Committee, that I think some of you have visited. And I'm also on government operations, and I'm a member of the Industrial Development Agency. And I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have.
Okay. So what does being progressive mean to you?
By the way, thanks for sending out the questions, because it really let me think a little bit. The word that I focus on with progressive is community, that we are dependent upon each other, and that our government has to represent all of us together, and that the government needs the support of the people, but we have a positive view that the government can be a positive force for good. And frankly, I think the Tompkins County government does a lot of very good things in our community. We are able to advocate and make some real positive difference in lives. And that's what I see as being progressive. And that's what I try to do.
Okay. Do you see systemic discrimination and racial exclusion in the county or municipality that you are running for? If so, how would you address it as an elected official? What specific plans would you try to enact? If not, please describe your district.
I'm sorry, in my district or in the county?
In your district. Your district.
I think, well, I would talk about my district a little bit. I think the 4th district is the most diverse district in the county, well, in lots of different ways. It has it's certainly the densest district. The district stretches from, most of you know, College Town, some of Cornell University, East Hill, the Commons, some of Fall Creek. And you have single-family homes, you have rental homes, you have apartments, houses that are rented out as apartments, you have very large apartment buildings, and more on the way. You have business. We have in the district, we have both College Town and our core downtown area. So you're looking at a lot of diversity that way. I think you also see a lot of diversity in terms of nationality, because we have visitors from all over the world because of Cornell and Ithaca College. We have a full range of socioeconomic status in the district. And I think it makes the Fourth one of the best places to live in the city, frankly. We aren't any different than any other part of the county in terms of having racial challenges. And I acknowledge that they're there as well as anywhere else. What was the end of the question? I should have memorized the question.
How would you address it as an elected official? Are there specific plans you would try to enact?
Addressing that is really an answer to one of the other questions about what do I see as one of the central challenges of our government. And it comes down to a single word, trust. I think of government as trust, that you pick people to represent you, and you need to trust them. And frankly, what we're seeing right now in our national politics, and it's here as well, is an essential breakdown of that simple thing, that it's getting harder and harder to trust each other, and that's really difficult. You turn on the national news, and it's there. You know, that what is going on in Washington is really frightening, but it's here too. And in particular, I would say, as the chair of the Jail Study Committee, we've had to work very hard to say we're listening and we're keeping open minds, that we have not made decisions and we're just trying to rationalize them. We're trying to do the right thing there, and it's hard to convey that. So I would say, what do? It's that fight every day to try to convey we are trying to be as trustworthy as we can. We're trying to be transparent. We're trying to listen. We're trying to hear. That's what I do, and that's what I think we should do.
So what is your stance on increasing property taxes in order to address local community needs or to address them?
Well, I've voted on 2 budgets, and we have raised taxes, very marginally. I think the tax raise last year was 2%, and it was in that range the first budget that I voted on. You have to raise taxes if you want to give your staff raises. But at the same time, there's knock-on effects. If you're raising taxes, you get more money in the door, but you also raise the cost of living in our county. And if you're concerned about affordable housing, if you're concerned about the costs for buying things, if we raise taxes, it gets passed on. My main concern is that we are really, really careful with county dollars. We do the things that we have to do, and we do very important things at the county, but I don't want to raise taxes if I can avoid it. We've done one thing very recently that is out of the ordinary, and that's the Tompkins Trust Company building. We have taken money that we received from New York State for the casinos, and I thought that was a very good, and used it to buy the Trust Company building. And that's going to house the History Center and approximately 7 other not-for-profit organizations. It's a lot of money, and it's money we spent out of the ordinary course. My belief is that that's a transformational expense that will really help the Commons, it'll help our downtown, and it will help the not-for-profits because they can be far more efficient. It also provides a home for the History Center where we can have a museum we can be very proud of. But it's an instance where we spend an extra amount of money. Most of the time, my concern is you watch your pennies and your nickels. You know, that if you really want efficient government, that's where you got to work. Yeah.
What is your approach to consensus building in a group, and can you give an example of you using your approach?
Yes, and I want to go backwards for a second.
Okay.
Because I also wanted to comment on the last question a little bit about the state of Tompkins County government. We have a government we can be very proud of. I think we've got very good administration, and if you look at our fund balance and our reserves, we are a very healthy county economically, and that is a valuable thing on a lot of different levels. I am very concerned, if I get the Medicaid question down the line, I'll tell you I'm really concerned about what's going to happen with the national government effectively reneging on its responsibilities as a partner in local government. We are in way better shape than the other counties that are in the 23rd Congressional District. We are going to be better placed to be able to respond to things because we've been really fiscally careful. And anyway, I wanted to make sure you understood that's why I think it's so important. You want to have that resilience, and we have it right now. And we're going to need it, I think. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So, what is your approach to consensus building in a group, and can you give an example?
Sure. You can't do anything in the county without 8 votes. You have to get 8 votes. And you have to get more than that if you really want to get somewhere. And I would give the example of the trust company building. When that original proposal came up, Joe Mariana, the county administrator, asked me to be the representative to work with him on that project. And I was happy to do it because I thought it was a really important thing, but we got a sense of the legislature at the beginning. And there was a lot of skepticism. And that just means that, yeah, you have to be really thoughtful about how do you get there. We spent months, and I don't want to take credit for it because I sat at a lot of meetings where a lot of people did a lot of good work. But you participate, you work at it, and we made that proposal better and better. We got a unanimous vote from the legislature on that. And I was so happy at that because, you want your 8 votes so you can do it, but when it's unanimous, you're saying, yes, the county is behind this, and you built a consensus. I would give another example. Last year, I felt it was important that Tompkins County make a statement about New York State government and the problem with ethics reform. This has been something I have followed for years, and it bothers me terribly. And I said, I want to write a resolution and present it for the legislature, and I don't want it to be a resolution that says, boy, wouldn't it be great if we did ethics reform in Albany. I wanted it to be very specific. And so I picked out about 12 points. And I see Carol's here. Carol helped me on that. And Anna. But I'm trying to get 14 legislators to agree to very specific recommendations, such as what do we do about redistricting? What do we do about campaign contributions? What do we want to see the legislature do about appointments and how long the leadership in Albany should hold their positions? It was really hard. It took a long time walking around and making sure that everybody was convinced. We had a unanimous vote on that. I was really proud of that vote. And I can tell you, we sent it to our representatives with the direction, please tell us what your positions are on these items. We got a response from Barbara Lifton. We did not receive any word from our senators, which I think was an answer in and of itself. But, we built consensus. We made a good county statement, I think. So,
Okay. We have time check. Go ahead.
Before I get to my question, I want to say I thought you did an amazing job on that ethics thing. That was incredible. So, the IDA, do you think that the projects that the IDA has approved recently really serve the needs of the larger community? If so, why? If not, how would you perhaps change the rules that the IDA is working under to make it more responsive to our needs?
I am on the Industrial Development Agency. I have voted. Thank you. Okay. You can hear me in the back? Is that okay? I'm on the Industrial Development Agency. I have voted for the recent projects, including Herald Square, City Center, and I think those are net positives for our community. They don't do everything. I'm seeing a head shaking no. They don't do everything, and you can't get a single project that is going to do everything. You do what you can. And I believe we need to help the businesses on the commons, and you need to have more people there to shop and eat for those businesses to survive. I want that to be our town square. The City Center project, I believe, adds 802 beds. Herald Square is, I can't remember the number, but it's comparable. It's not necessarily low income. It's not low income, and it's not necessarily market rate. It's going to be a little bit above, but it adds a significant amount of housing in our city, in our core. It reduces sprawl. These are some of the most energy efficient buildings probably in the state. When you look at what they have done to manage the energy efficiency in these buildings, it's really impressive. If you think about the project that was City Center, I think they improved it over and over again. They put parking underneath. I think there's solar panels on that one. There's certainly going to be solar panels on Herald Square. They're doing systems to bring heat from one side of the building to the other when the sun shines on it in both projects. And you say, well, it's not affordable housing. It's not. However, if you increase the housing stock in the city, you have more places for people to stay. That's not a bad thing. It didn't decrease affordable housing at all. It added total housing. But with that said, if I was starting from scratch, if I was king of New York, would I set up the IDA the way it is? No. But we are where we are. And the Industrial Development Agency allows Ithaca to be competitive with the communities around it and to bring in the development it wants. I wish I was as eloquent as our mayor, who was at the last IDA meeting and was talking about this, and particularly the city CTAP, which is the acronym for the process they have for considering projects before they come to the IDA. So the city approves through their CTAP process, and then the IDA considers it. And what the mayor said was, before we had the CTAP program we have now, we had 0 projects downtown. With CTAP, we've seen a transformation of our downtown. It's my belief those projects are making our downtown better. They are bringing a core around the commons that can make it successful for all the businesses and as a town square. I believe that's important, that we have a public space in the center of our town that's vibrant and economically viable. What can we do? If you read the housing strategy that just came out, one of the elements they talk about is using the IDA to help more with affordable housing. I think we should. The IDA is not against affordable housing, both low income and affordable, and in fact has helped with the Hancock Plaza project and Breckenridge, the Breckenridge project. We should be doing both, and I hope that we will. You know, but I would add that the IDA by itself can't provide the financial muscle for low income and perhaps affordable housing. You need more. You need a real infusion of money. We have to figure out how to do that. And that's part of what the housing strategy talks about is we need to be innovative, we need to get there. And the IDA can play its part. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay.
Two more short question and answers from our panel, and then we'll open to the...
Okay.
As a member of the county legislature, you're probably aware that Governor Cuomo wants every county in the state to look into consolidation of government offices. How do you think that Tompkins County should approach this, and how would you go about implementing your recommendation for that?
I think that whenever you can consolidate services and you're not creating problems as a result, why not? I think that our country has gone and wasted a tremendous amount of time with an argument about bigger government or smaller government, where I think you really have to focus on is government efficient? Is it providing the services people need at a reasonable cost? And if you're doing that, you're accomplishing the purpose of government. Consolidation of services makes really good sense. I agree with the governor that in principle, yes, we should do it. And in fact, Tompkins County has already done it in a lot of different ways. We have consolidated assessment. Most counties don't do it that way. They have an assessment department in every municipality. Our county clerk just won an award for leading in terms of scanning documents and building systems for electronic retrieval. There's no reason why that service can't expand to the other towns and villages in the county, and you'd save a lot of money. There's been some talk about consolidating back office functions, say through BOCES or some other way, to say for tax collection or other functions of the town and village clerks. You know, it makes sense to do that. We're talking about, a study's underway about the police departments, whether there's any way to do consolidation there. I think that's a much heavier lift. There's just a lot of factors that you have to work through for that to be viable. I don't see that we're going to get to a place where there's a single police department for the whole county. However, there's a lot of pieces of law enforcement that we spend a lot of money on where we can share, such as training, the detective work, some of that, some of the housing of cars. I wouldn't be averse to a single site for the road patrol, the county road patrol, and the city police department. You know, you could have common maintenance on the vehicles. You could share the briefing rooms. You know, there's just money to be saved. And when you start looking at it, why not? You know, that's part of having an efficient government, having an innovative government, is we should be thinking outside the box and trying to figure out how to do things better.
Thanks. Margaret, do you want to ask the last question?
Yes, I'm going to circle you back around.
Okay.
Are you worried about potential loss of federal funding for Medicaid? If that did happen, how would you approach this with your colleagues to do your best to ensure everyone receives health care?
Yes. I attended Tom Reed's town hall out in Trumansburg a few weeks ago, and I found it so frustrating in that you could hear everything was a rationalization that he is going to vote for whatever budget comes through. And starting with what President Trump has proposed, it is a radical shift of cost from the federal government to the local municipalities. The needs aren't going to go away. They just won't. And it's not just Medicaid. It is job training. It's opiate addiction treatment or any kind of drug treatment. It's Meals on Wheels. You know, it's weather satellites. You know, the cuts are remarkable, but the ones that flow down to the local level, as I said, the needs stay here. And we're here. People are going to come to us and say, what are you going to do? So we are going to need to be prepared to do as much as we can. Answer, when you get to the granular levels, I don't know. But we're going to probably have to rely on help from all sorts of sources. I think we're going to have to consolidate services with other governments, local governments. We're probably going to be needing to go to New York State and demanding more assistance. I think we're going to need to rely more heavily on our not-for-profits, which, you know, they do an amazing amount already here. But I don't know how we provide for all the needs of the people in our community that need help when the federal government bails out, which I think is exactly what they're going to try to do.
Well, I would also like to ask you how you feel about single-payer health care and if you're familiar with the New York State Health Act.
I would be happy with single-payer if we could get it passed. It seems like it's a heavy political lift, but at this point, maybe we have to try. Maybe we have to try. And if you look at what single payer can do in terms of economic efficiency compared to using private insurers, it's so far ahead of the game. And it works in other countries. I don't know why the United States can't do it. However, that comes back to what I was talking about earlier about trust. If, you know, I was watching the election in Georgia results, and it's baffling to me, but there it is. There is a core group of people in this country that do not trust the progressive vision, or even the Democratic vision. And how do you bridge that is I think, the great challenge. If you can get trust, we can solve all sorts of problems. But right now, we are so divided as a people that I don't know that we can do single payer. I would love us to do it, and I would support it. But at the same time, I think we have to find a way to communicate across the divides to build the support we need. If you're telling me we can get the support in New York and get it done, I would support it. And I would certainly say that in any venue. What I want to make sure is that there is a viable health care option for people that need it. And it seems like we're heading in exactly the opposite direction right now. I'd like to say Tompkins County can solve the problem here and just pick it all up. We are economically strong, but I don't think we can do all that on our own. We're going to need help from different directions.
Oh, I guess it's only time for one question, okay. There's a spectrum of ways in which public bodies approach taking time for their own deliberations and hearing from the public and getting to a vote. Where do you fall on that spectrum and why?
I'm not sure I understood the question, Carol.
What's your, I wish I could repeat it, but
Some public bodies believe that we all come in, we get elected to represent our neighborhoods and our parts of the district, and we come in and we know how we stand and we just get to a vote. And some take hours and hours and hours to debate and give perspectives and try to convince their peers, and also varying amounts of time to hear from the public and various stakeholders. What kind of actions do you think a body like this should be taking, both themselves and with the public, and why do you think that?
to do what?
Before getting to a vote, do you think that there's what process should be used and how much time should be taken?
You're talking about the county
what's your-
legislature, not this body.
Oh, yes, public bodies, like
The
the county
legislature.
legislature.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure. We are a deliberative body, and we do take a tremendous amount of time talking about things. So I don't think there's any shortage of words spent at the county legislature for anybody who's attended. I think there's some areas, certainly I would like us to run more efficient meetings. We're running over 4 hours every 2 weeks. And frankly, in my experience, meetings don't work very well when you get past the 2-hour mark. People get tired, and they don't do as well. They don't listen as carefully. So I'm all in favor of more efficient meetings. What I would say is that there's parts of the meeting that I think are more valuable to spend time on than others. I like the public comment section. I know you're looking at me going, no, that's hard to believe, but it's great to have people willing to get off their couch, come down to the legislature, wait in line, and tell us what you think. And that means a lot. It gives us really good input, and it sends a message that whatever the person is getting up and talking about, they think is really important. And you get a tremendous variety of opinions. So that part of our meetings, I think, take as long as you want. But I know why Carol asked the question, because I suggested that the legislators on our privilege of the floor should be limited to the same amount of time as the public, in the interest of trying to keep our meetings moving along, because we don't get to our substantive materials until usually an hour and a half into the meeting or more. And I got shot down terribly. In answer to the question earlier about building consensus, that one, the legislators all said, no, we want to talk as long as we want. And that's okay. But there are consequences to having incredibly long meetings. We talk a good game about wanting diversity on our legislature. I'm concerned that if you have, say, somebody with young children, 4.5-hour meetings, that's really hard. If you have somebody who's, has any kind of health issue, that's a long time to sit in a meeting. And frankly, I don't know that we do as good as we can when we go over the 4-hour mark. It's just hard. And those meetings, our main legislative meetings, are after we've already had committee meetings. So the issues that are generally coming up before the legislature have been considered by committee already in meetings that usually go an hour and a half to 2 hours or even more there. So it's not a situation where we're not considering or deliberating. I just think we can be more efficient.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
So just one last, these will be edited and we will share them with membership first for voting purposes, and then we will share them publicly. We won't be sharing them until all the interviews for at least for that we're going through will be done. So that's going to be a couple weeks. Our next one is July 12th. We will start on time and keep them tight. These ones all went for exactly 30 minutes. We'll start on time next time. Thank you guys, everybody, for coming and sticking with our first round of a lot of the quirks.
Thank you.